Hey everybody, it's Cindy Ingram, the art curator for kids, and I decided just on a whim today to go live and talk about this painting. I have been wanting to do more, talking about individual works of art on Facebook Live, and I just haven't done it yet. And so I sat down to write a blog post about this painting, and I thought, well, now's a good time to try it out. So we're going to just talk about this painting today. I'm going to share a little bit of information about it and talk about how I use it in my classroom, because it is a really juicy painting that, at first glance, you might not think that it's that exciting to show to your students, but actually it has a lot of good meaning and interpretation, a lot of good use of elements and principles of art, and stuff like that. So actually I'm going to plug in my other monitor real fast so I can see your comments better. Okay, good. So yeah, let's talk about it. Now, if you were at my workshop in Dallas this weekend, you spent a good amount of time talking about this artwork. And it is a near and dear artwork to me because my first job out of college was at the Kimball Art Museum in Fort Worth. And this was a painting, that way. It was a painting there at the museum. And so I spent a lot of time during that year internship talking about this with students. And I just really love it. And I've always loved talking about this painting with students. So, hold on one second. Kind of a weird tech issue where I can't see I don't know why that little image is there. Okay. Tech issues. Okay. So, let's talk about this painting. Now, if you're here watching live, I see there's a couple of you watching live and you want to participate in the discussion. I would love to hear your thoughts about what's happening in this painting, what's going on. And, any thoughts you think about, what's the story, what's going on here, that would be awesome. Hi, Shelley. Glad you're watching. So this painting, is great for art interpretation. This is in my art criticism lesson that I have on my website, and it's also in this Romanticism PowerPoint that I'm just about to upload into my resource library, which is what prompted me to start writing about it. So my strategy with this artwork is really just to use visual thinking strategies. What do you see that makes, what do you see in this painting? What's going on in this painting? What do you see that makes you say that? It's a really good strategy for this because you can get a lot of great information. Now, I don't know how many people are going to participate in this discussion, so I'm just going to sort of tell you how the discussion normally goes, and this will be very instructive to those of you who are using these resources and find this artwork on a PowerPoint of one of my PowerPoints, and you need more information about kind of what's going on. So I first ask the students, what's happening here? And they usually always say, there's two people there. And then the discussion immediately starts with, are they, the man and the woman, are they together, or is the man kidnapping the woman? Is the man kidnapping the woman, or is the woman going with the man? So that's usually our first level of discussion. And then we talk about, well, what do you see in the painting that makes you say that? So we start usually... There's people who kind of view it both ways. But once you look closer at the painting, you start to notice, well, the woman is holding on to the man. There is no instance where the man actually has a hold of the woman. So that shows us, that she's grabbing a hold of him for protection. So that is one of the first things we talk about. And so we kind of pick apart, how did the artist show them so that it shows that they are indeed a pair. They're not, something's not terrible happening to her. Another thing you can see, and I'm wondering if my mouse, if I show my mouse, if you will be able to see it. I wonder if I have a pointer. This is new software. I've only used it one or two times. I don't see any pointers. But if you look at the arc of the arm and the sword, you'll see that, I guess I can use my hands. You can see that there's an arc above her and an arc under her. And so it's sort of creates this sort of protective oval around her, and that, it keeps her safe. And another person at my workshop the other day, and it's the first time I've heard this, I've talked about this painting so many, I don't even know how many times, a lot of times, someone said that it's like a eyeball. And it's like eyeball shape, and then she's the pupil. So she's sort of the center of the romance and the love and of the story, which I thought was really, really cool. Shelley says, yay, that the man is looking upward at something or someone and raising your sword like a protection. So they're both sort of kind of looking back, and his sword is behind him. There's something happening behind him. And if you look closer at the picture, you might be able to figure out what exactly is happening to, or, what is behind them, what he's looking out for. Sorry. If you'll notice, I can't point, but this way, right, I can't point. In the cave, there's a little tiny blob of people. You can kind of see them there. And those are the people that are sort of chasing after them. So they're kind of running away from this sort of group of people that are back there through that cave. And so then we talk about, who are these people? What can we tell about them based on what we see? So the students notice that the man has very elaborately dressed. He's got this turban, he's got jewelry, he's got, the gold on the sleeves and the big puffy everything. And he's super fancy, but he's kind of scruffy too. He's darker skinned. He's got facial hair, he's got longer hair. And so I asked them, well, what could that indicate about him and what type of person he is? Oh, good. Shelley has a comment. The right hand thumb is downward as if he just finished an upsweep. Yeah. So it's like he's, that the way he's positioned his hand. And this would be a really good one. I do a lot of kinesthetic things where you put yourself in the pose of the artwork. And I don't know why I've never done it with this one, but you could get two student volunteers, one be the woman and one be the man, and have them act it out. And, you think about which way the hand is going, which way are they stepping. And that adds to the story, and it can give us information about what's happening here. So that's really cool. And what would it be different if his hand was like this? How would that be different? He's actually doing that sort of sweeping motion. Hi, Diana. Welcome. So then we talk about, the guy, and usually they always immediately say, oh, he's a pirate. And I don't know if I haven't seen this with new eyes since, I worked at the Kimball in 2002, so I haven't seen this with new eyes for 15 years. So I don't know that I would have gotten pirate. I really don't think I would have, but everyone always does. So maybe I would have. I just assume, to me, I don't know. So they immediately think, oh, he's a pirate. And then we start to compare and contrast. Well, what's different about him versus the woman? So if you have some thoughts, I would love to hear them there. But the students will say, well, she's not a pirate. She's definitely not a pirate. She's different. She's a little fancier, maybe a more higher class person. She's got, really beautiful. They both have really beautiful clothes, but hers look certainly more, a little bit more higher class. Someone in the workshop on Saturday said, oh, she's wearing purple and blue, which are kind of more symbols of, royalty and wealth back then. That's how I think too, Shelley, but everyone always says pirate, and they are correct. Actually, he is a pirate. So, what are you going to do? Okay. So, another thing they notice is the difference in he's very scruffy. She's very more well kept. And also their skin color is different. He looks like he's spent a lot of time in the sun, whereas she looks like she spent a lot of time indoors. Her skin is not as tan. And so they kind of can figure out the difference between the two of them just through looking. And so then I asked, well, okay, so we've got two people, two of different a rich pirate, yes. Well, I guess pirates can be pretty rich if all they do is steal gold and stuff. He could probably afford himself some good clothes. Hold on one second. Yeah. So then we talk about what's the story here? Let's figure it out. They've got two people of different classes, and then we have a group following behind. Oops, I did not turn my sound off my phone when I started this. Okay. So if you have an idea for the story, go ahead and share it down below. Stolen clothes. Yeah. I hadn't talked about that one yet. Ultimately, what's happening here is, and I'm just kind of stalling for a little bit to see if anybody has any thoughts on the meaning. Um, oh, I always call it a cave, but it's not really a cave because it like doesn't go into a hole. I think it's rock. I think it's rocks, but that's a really good point. Like the smoke, because it's painted in such a painterly way. And then usually, depending on when I talk about this painting, I talk about it within an art criticism lesson. I also talk about it in my romanticism lesson. When it's in the romanticism lesson, we start talking about the paint, the style of it, and how it's painted, and that sort of thing, and how we can see the brush strokes, and how that adds to the emotion of the piece. So, and it's hard to tell, the background because it's just big and blocky. It could be smoke. I always, cave is definitely the wrong word because it's more like a tunnel, rock, a tunnely rock, or smoke. The smoke does fit into the story too. So it's whatever you want it to be. That's what I tell my students. I'm like, I don't know what you think. So yeah, that's a good point. And that, talking about how it's painted adds to the emotions in the picture too, for sure. Ooh, someone's coming through with lantern light. That's cool. On my screen, your messages have covered the image, so I'm gonna put it over here so I can see. Uh-oh, what happened? Oh, there we go. Not like I haven't seen this painting a gazillion times, but I want to make sure I see. Oh yeah, it does look kind of, the hole does kind of look lit. That's cool. So we've got these two people. They're running from the people in the background. Why are they running? So that's a conversation we can have is, what happens to, what put them in this situation to where they're running from people in the background. And usually the love story wins out. Everyone's like, oh, they're in love and they're running from the people behind, obviously. and people say, oh, well, she's not supposed to be with him, and they're running off together, which is pretty much the truth. This is based off of a poem written by Lord Byron also during the Romantic time period. So this was painted in 1857, which is the Romantic period in art, and also in poetry. A lot of the paintings in Romanticism were very much connected with the literature. So, because there was a big boom in literature at the time as well, poetry and whatnot, and prose and all of that. So, Shelley, yeah, you're exactly right. It is basically a Romeo and Juliet situation. She is in love with her name is Zuleika, and she is in love with Selim, who is the pirate. She was supposed to marry somebody else, and her father sort of gave her an arranged marriage. Oh, that's another thing we always talk about is kind of where do you think they're from? I usually don't give the title to give away any information. Where in the world do you think they're from? Yeah, she is supposed to marry this guy. She doesn't want to. She runs off with Zuleika, and then the arranged marriage husband plus her father and everybody else comes chasing after them, trying to get them back. And in the situation, what do you think is going to happen next? I think Shelley gave it away with a little bit of a Romeo and Juliet feel. We know that ending is not, they both end up dying. So I imagine that's what you would think based on your Romeo and Juliet talk. But they are, another thing we talk about too is how they're right on the edge of the ocean. So, it's almost like they're trapped. They get to the edge of the ocean and they don't really have many more places to go. And so what he does is he shoots his gun, and I don't know if you notice he's holding a gun in his left hand. We didn't really mention that. He shoots his gun up in the air, and that signals his boat to come pick them up. Because he's a pirate, he's got a boat, and we don't see the boat in the painting, but that's what happens in Lord Byron's story. He shoots the gun to signal the boat. When he does that, it also signals to the dad and the other guy where they are. So they catch up to them, and then the dad kills Selim, and then Zuleika dies of a broken heart. So they do both end up dying in the end. And, this painting is really good to do narrative work, to do like the kinesthetic thing I talked about, to really pick apart an artwork. And then also at the end, I'm like, well, what choices did the artist make to tell that story? Like, what did he do? He could have just drawn two people there, but the way that the body poses, the way they're looking, the setting, the way it's painted, all of that stuff adds to our interpretation and our meaning. And so he was very effective at telling this story through those choices that he makes. And so I think it's a really good one to pick apart that. So yeah, it's a really cool painting. It's Delacroix is the artist, Selim and Zuleika from 1857, and it is in the Kimball Art Museum in Fort Worth if you ever want to see it. It's been a painting that I've always loved and always really enjoyed talking about with students, because the discussion is always good. They always have a lot to say. So thank you for coming and watching, Shelley, and how do you say your name? Dania? Diana and Dania. Hi, Melissa. She talked about this at the workshop on Saturday. She was there. Hi, Amy. Okay, so this is actually going to be a blog post. I'm going to put this in a blog post where I write about this painting. But you can also find this painting in two of my lessons in the resource library for art teachers, which is in the art criticism lesson, as well as the romanticism lesson, which I am just about to upload because this video is going to be part of that. So thank you so much for coming and watching this. I'm glad it went well. I always wonder, I always want to talk about art on Facebook Live, but I didn't know how the discussion would go, but it went great. So that's awesome. I'm going to do this more because it's super fun. Thank you, Melissa. I had such a good time too. I've been kind of on a post-workshop high the last few days, so I loved it. All right, so thank you again. And if you're interested in joining the resource library, it is opening very soon. If you go to artcreatorforkids.com/join, you can join the waitlist, and it's opening on Friday for the waitlist people. Oh, good. Thanks, Shelley. Shelley put the link to the artwork, and that is where you can read a little bit more about it too. And I think they have some audio stuff on there too that you could listen to. I don't know if they do with that one. I can't remember. All right. Awesome. I'm going to sign off. Thank you guys so much for watching. And it went well. I'm going to do more because I liked that. Talking harder is awesome. Okay. Have a great day.